Can you tell me the 5 freedoms protected by the First Amendment?
Assembly, freedom of speech. I'm drawing a blank on the others. Religion.
Do you remember our meeting on November 1st?
I do.
Did you remember me saying that I was going to come back and ask this question?
I do.
Did you look into it at all between then and now?
I did.
Okay, so you just forgot.
Welcome back, folks. We have an amazing video for you today. Today's video comes from the channel This Is a Public Service. Accompanying him on this video is George from the Rogue Nation channel. He does an outstanding job here as well. These fine gentlemen are interviewing the ill-prepared mayor of Mount Dora in the state of Florida. First Amendment audits have gotten a bad reputation recently, and we've even had wannabe activists calling for auditing to stop. People that don't appreciate auditing in its purest form don't understand the importance of it, so I will attempt to explain this to the simple-minded. There are massive amounts of tax dollars being poured into the existence of government itself. Misappropriation of funds happens everywhere. Sometimes servants in positions of power, for example, a city manager has friends in the flower business, so the only beautification contracts going out to beautify the city goes to his friends that give kickbacks to the city manager and his city attorney friends. A perfect example of that would be in Edison, New Jersey, where Jersey Watcher has uncovered political corruption along with character assassination attempts to stop him from uncovering the truth. First Amendment audits is the best thing this country has ever seen regarding government accountability. This channel, This Is a Public Service, is one of my favorite auditing channels that's ever existed. You should definitely subscribe and say hello. I will drop his link as well as Rogue Nation's link in the description and pinned comment. Let's have a look at this amazing video. Watch these men absolutely own the conversation with the mayor. This is what happens when you have two auditors masterfully bringing transparency to a town that undoubtedly needs it. Here's your video. Enjoy.
Can you tell me the total proposed budget for all city funds combined is a little over 134, well, it's almost $135 million. This represents more than a $32 million or a 31% increase from last year's budget, which was over 102 million. Can you tell me what the possible justification for such an increase is?
Projects that were not completed last year, so they've continued on to this budget. So there's money budgeted last year that we've added to this year's budget to continue with those projects that weren't completed last year.
Okay, so you only spent 70 of the 100 million last year?
Correct.
Okay.
That's true.
I'd have to sit down and look at the budget book. We're kind of out of budget season, so.
That's $30 million. Million. Is that unimportant?
Oh no, it's certainly important. Every dollar is important. Absolutely.
But you don't know.
You caught me out of budget zone right now. We were meeting about civil rights, I thought, so.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, all of this applies.
Yeah, sure.
Can you tell me why the library director was given a $25,000 raise this year?
Again, it's operations. I have no idea.
It is most troubling to witness a city mayor so ill-prepared to answer direct questions about a specific incident. She is, however, reasonably well polished in the art of deflection and evading of questions. Outside of her public duties, I find it disturbing that a bookstore owner is this uncurious about what's going on in her city when she's the fucking mayor. Total bullshit if she is allowed to refer everything to the city manager. You guys should be able to sit down and interview the city manager. Nice job to both of you.
Isn't it true that you sent an email to the city manager, Cheminsky, at 7:20 in the morning on December 13th, nearly 6 hours before I spoke to you?
I couldn't say that for sure. I'd have to look at my email.
What do you think the consequence for people not being honest with the public should be?
That was your first question, right?
Yeah, it's still a question.
A case-by-case basis.
Okay. Case-by-case basis. So, if you were lying to me right now in this interview, what do you think, as the mayor, what do you think the consequence should be?
I know that I'm not lying to you, so.
At the beginning, she couldn't stop her mouth from talking, but she went silent real quick when she noticed that the questions are well asked and the guys did a great investigation. She doesn't really know what is going on in her city, but she definitely knows who's to blame. I personally don't think she's truthful because she still believes that panhandling is a crime. Come on, lady, is your education sponsored by a fast food chain?
It's
That wasn't-
something I wouldn't even think about.
That wasn't the question.
It's hypotheticals. I'm not lying to you. I don't lie.
Interesting. Major?
I've only got maybe one or two questions, and they deal with the Jeff Gray incident.
Mhm.
He's requested some body cam footage from the city of the incident. He has been notified that it's going to cost him $400 for an hour-long body cam footage. Now we know this is ridiculous because we pull body cam footage all over the state
Mm-hmm.
daily. And what the city clerk, I believe it was the city clerk, has said is that they have to redact the video frame by frame, which is ridiculous. Again, there shouldn't be, from what I could see of the incident that was recorded, there was no personal information to redact in the first place. None of the people that are in public need their faces blurred, you know,
Mhm.
because they're in public. There's
Mhm.
no expectation of privacy. So is there any way that we can get the city clerk to follow the Florida Public Records law? Or do we have to sue to make them do that as well?
Oh, I'm sure she's following it. I don't know what it takes to redact a video. I'm not, that's her job. I can inquire for you, sure.
Okay, all right, yeah, I would love to know
Certainly.
about that. I'll maybe email you about it, but again, I mean, we work with municipalities
I'm sure you do, yeah.
all over the state
Sure.
to get body cam footage, and we know it's not a frame by frame redaction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for an hour, basically what you have to do is watch the video, so that's an hour,
Right.
right? And if you hear somebody's name and social security number, okay, I got to redact that.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense.
You don't have to like play pause, play pause,
Right.
play pause. You don't have to do that.
Right.
So, I mean, if she doesn't have the editing software needed, I'd feel that in a $130 million budget, we can allot her $20, because that's what my editing software costs.
Mm-hmm.
$20 to
Okay.
get editing
I'll inquire for
software.
you. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Because what that does is that presents a barrier for citizens to get public records.
Mm-hmm.
How many people have $400 sitting around,
Right.
you know, for an hour-long body cam footage? Now, I think it's an important incident, but maybe people in the city, maybe you don't think it's an important incident, you know, that's fine. But what happens if a mother's requesting body cam footage of a police officer who smacked her kid? You know, she doesn't have $400 to spend on that hour-long body cam footage. And the Public Records Act, thank God, Florida has the best one in the country. It's to get this information into the hands of the citizens,
Mm-hmm.
because it's all our information, right? We pay for the body cam, we pay for the salaries of all this stuff, we pay for all this stuff, right? So it's ours. So we need to be able to get it in a timely and cost-effective manner, really. I'd also be interested to know is she doing this on her city clerk time? You see, is she getting paid twice for working the same amount of hours? You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's totally acceptable if you do your mayor work and get paid for your mayor work, and then at the end of your mayor day, you redact some footage and then you get paid more, right?
Right.
But to intermingle your mayor work with the body cam work and get paid twice
Right.
is not acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be interested in finding out who's doing the redaction. Is it on city time or is it on overtime, you know, that they're getting paid for through the
Mm-hmm.
through the record request,
Right.
and not getting paid overtime and the record request.
Right. I see what you're saying.
Right. So that's important for us to know as well, because we don't want that happening, right?
Sure.
We don't want double dipping, double pay going out, especially if I'm already paying her to be the city clerk and she's doing it on her city clerk time.
Right.
Why are you asking for more money?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that doesn't make any sense.
Just so I can clarify with the clerk, did the request come from Jeff Gray himself?
I believe.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the name
Because I'm sure she
he
has
used.
quite a few.
Right, right. I don't know the name he used, but it's about the library incident.
Okay.
I know there's not a lot of people that have requested
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that it's been $400, right? Okay,
Right,
I'll ask her.
exactly. So it should be easier for
Sure.
her to find library incident $400 invoice.
Sure.
You can say ill-prepared, but a more pragmatic way to look at this is uneducated about these facets of natural rights. It isn't uncommon at all for the people to not understand common law, natural rights, Lockean theory, or basic constitutional rights recognized by the government. I actually would give credence and value to a woman like her that is willing to engage the public even if she is wrong. Why? Because this is how we spread knowledge and educate each other. Should she already know and understand Lockean theory? Absolutely. However, demeaning her for her lack of knowledge is counterproductive, since it induces most people to put up a wall and to shut down their brain when they are offended or believe they are being ridiculed. Another major issue being displayed here is the ability to renege on duties by obfuscating the duty to an unelected official. See, this mayor highlights the exact problem with every government official pretty much all over the U.S. They are uneducated to their job and duties, and the only people who suffer are the citizens. These are the people we need to get out of government, or at the very least get trained.
So, do you think that freedom of speech is important on public property?
Everywhere.
Okay. So I guess my disconnect is: did you watch the body cam?
I did not.
Didn't watch the body cam. I'm not sure where to go. Why? You're the spokesman for the city.
Mm-hmm.
There's a civil rights violation within the city,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't find it interesting enough, even after I came there to tell you to look into the incident specifically. You didn't think it was worthy of looking into?
Not necessarily that I didn't think it was worthy. Sorry, let me turn this off. No, not that I didn't think it was worthy. I guess we've never been served a civil rights violation as since I've been mayor. So I guess I was waiting for something to come in writing
So
that we
you-
could physically
you-
address.
So you'd like to see litigation and not conversations. You want the people of Mount Dora to pay rather than a conversation be had that could potentially stop these incidents from happening.
I mean,
You would prefer litigation,
no, not my preference at all. That's why I'm sitting here having a conversation with you.
right? But you didn't look at this. You didn't look at the incident at all.
I haven't seen that there has been no violation, according to our police department, of Officer Vachon, of what he did, how he handled it. I haven't heard anything. Nothing's come before city council.
Do you think that the police are knowledgeable on civil rights and when violations occur?
I would hope so.
I hate to say it, you're a very nice lady, but you're sadly mistaken. Most officers, if you were to go down to the Mount Dora Police Department
Mm-hmm.
and question every officer you have, what's the number for the ID statute? 99% of them couldn't tell you the number for the ID statute. And let me tell you why that's troubling. Let's say you're a carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
You'd expect a carpenter to know what a hammer is, right?
Sure,
You'd expect a bartender to know what a rum and coke is, right?
sure.
These are things they use every single day in their line of work, right? The ID law is the most used law by law enforcement officers. They ID everybody they come into contact with. 99% of them can't quote the statute. It's very troubling because what happens is like in this library incident, when he trespassed Jeff Gray, and Jeff Gray was walking out, which is what the law is. When someone says you're trespassed, you have to give them a time to leave,
Okay,
right? Before you arrest them for trespassing.
sure. Was he arrested?
I believe he was put in cuffs.
Yes.
I believe because he failed to ID. And see, here's where the violation comes in at and why knowing the law is important for the officers. There's a case called State versus Jesuits. It happened down in Tampa. I won't get into the details of it, but basically what they found is that police officers cannot detain you or hold you to get an ID for a trespassing warning, because a trespassing warning is civil, right? You're trespassed, get off my property. That's all that needs to be done. You're not supposed to ID them, you're not supposed to detain them, until they give you an ID, and you're definitely not supposed to arrest them
Mm-hmm.
for not giving you an ID for a trespassing warning, right?
Mhm.
And this case law's been case law for years now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no reason that this officer shouldn't have known that. This has put Mount Dora in a position of civil liability, and Jeff Gray does sue,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And it may take a while. There's a 4-year limit on civil rights violations here in
Okay.
Florida to be filed, but, you know, just basic knowledge like this can help a city like Mount Dora out. Like I said, I love Mount Dora.
Mhm.
My family and me, we come here all the time. But it's troubling because now we're taking money from the taxpayers. We're taking money from the city coffers that could be used for projects or editing programs or library increases. We're taking that money and we're giving it to a gentleman who should never have gotten it, because people should know their jobs, right?
Mhm.
And what the lines are that can't be crossed. And that's why at the city council meeting I was there, there was a gentleman there before me that was talking about training, and I told you guys when I got up there, training's free. I brought training right here. It's 11 pages long. I'll let you guys copy it before I leave. This comes from the federal government. It comes from the U.S. Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division,
Mm-hmm.
the Special Litigation Section.
Mm-hmm.
These are the top dogs of civil rights violations for the federal government, right? And they tell you in this letter, it's a what they call a guidance letter. It's about a incident that happened in Baltimore. It's Sharp v. Baltimore, and they're going through and they're telling the Baltimore Police Department about public photography, about civil rights, getting supervisors, not taking people's cameras because that's a First Amendment violation, such as that. If these 11 pages made it to the Mount Dora Police Department, you're gonna avoid 99% of any litigation, because like I said, citizens are tired. We're tired of listening to the news BS us. We know all about how the news has exclusive interviews to show the city and the police department in a good light.
Mhm.
We know people that work in media, you
Right.
know.
Sure.
So we understand how it works. And the citizens are tired. We want real answers, you know. We want eyes on contracts. We want eyes on our employees, making sure that they're treating people nice. I don't know if you've ever done this, but if you go to Google, like Google Maps,
Mm-hmm.
you pick any city you want, and you go to their public buildings, they have some of the worst ratings and reviews ever. I mean, city employees, and that's not saying Mount Dora specifically.
Sure.
I've never had people in Mount Dora treat me wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but they treat people like crap.
Hmm.
And the thing is that these people can't go nowhere else, you know. City Hall's not like McDonald's. You can't just go down the road to Burger King, right?
Right.
If you got to pay city utilities, and there's a lady in there that acts nasty to you every time you come, and she can't get fired, because it's hard to get people fired that work for the city and the state and everything, because they've got immunity, and sometimes their bosses don't care, and you know, whatever have you not. But I expect, and we all should expect, because we got to remember, once we're out of public service, we're just citizens again.
Mm-hmm.
So let me give you a good example of that. A fire marshal worked for a city for 30 years. Okay, it's Alabama. He retired. Well, the city got into some budgeting problems, right? As they do. And what they decided to do was cut this guy's pension.
Mm.
Okay? He ended up freezing to death in his apartment because he couldn't afford heat.
Wow.
Okay? After he gave 30 years to the city, you know, because when you're gone, you know, and 30 years down the road and you're in retirement and the city's looking at the budget, do you think they're going to care more about their pet projects or people they don't even know that worked there 20 years ago's retirement? It's an easy choice what's going to get cut, right? Should I give $25,000 raise to my buddy the librarian, or should I continue to pay a pension on this person no one here even knows, right? So once we leave public service, we become citizens again. So it behooves us
Right.
to make sure that there's a standard, a way of handling stuff. You know, you wouldn't expect to be treated crappy when you go to Outback. Why should you be treated crappy when you go pay your utility bill?
Sure.
You know, so that's part of the reason that we're out here. You know, we just want to make people aware of that and make sure, you know, people are following along what they should be doing. Now, like I've said, I've been to Mount Dora a couple of times. I've always been treated pretty nice. I was at the Mount Dora Police Department 4 years ago. I was outside their back gate, and they gave me a little bit of guff, but they didn't violate my rights, so that's good. You know, and I pretty much left Mount Dora alone. You know, I live here in Central Florida, and I've got over 1,300 videos in 15 states. I've done every public building you can imagine in the state of Florida. Prisons, juveniles, probation, city halls, councils. I've done it all here. I've been doing it for 4 years. I've got 3 lawsuits going right now in Alabama because they violated my rights up there. I've had like 4 or 5 lawsuits down here in Florida because they violated my rights down here. So it does happen. Litigation does happen. Not a lot. You know, sometimes people, oh, I'm going to sue you. They're just talking gas.
Right.
But when you see somebody that's paid thousands of dollars for their equipment, they come with the law in their hand. I mean, as Sherlock Holmes would say, 'tis a clue. You know? And unfortunately, people might say in the city, we're testing them. We're baiting them, they've even saying. You know what I mean? We're looking for a reaction. And I told my wife the other night, I said, I am looking for a reaction. And the reaction I'm looking for is for people to obey my rights, for people to be nice, to people act how they want to be treated. That's exactly the reaction I'm looking for, you know? And as far as baiting goes, I mean, we're allowed to test our officials, you know? We're allowed to make sure that they're following their rules and following the Constitution, most importantly of all. So that's what we do, and that's what we're going to keep going to do, and it's never going to go away. You know, we've been apathetic for too long, the American public. And as the founders of our great nation put in a letter to the inhabitants of Quebec in 1774, they wrote to them explaining the beauty of our rights. And what they said was about the right to free press, it is the right to shame the public official into doing what is noble. Right? Because even back then there was a lot of corruption, right? So, and everybody that works for the public dollar, that gets paid public money, is a public official. They don't have to be elected. They could be appointed. You know, it'd be silly to imagine that the only people we could keep track of were the people that are elected. 99% of the government isn't elected.
Right.
So it would not make any sense for transparency to only be able to record you and one other person in this building of 500 people. I'm just saying that as a number. I don't know.
Here's my final thoughts. First Amendment audits is a powerful phenomenon that brought the people together. Democrats and Republicans, black and white, gay and straight, man or woman, young and old. First Amendment audits benefits everyone. Just because someone works in government, that doesn't automatically make them honest nor balanced. Some of the people working in government have no business being there. This mayor didn't even know all of the elements to the First Amendment, which is disturbing considering she's supposed to have the best interest of the people in mind. Looks like the only interest government has is to keep itself operating under immunity without the idea of accountability or transparency. Folks, please go subscribe to the original channel and show him support. We the people appreciate a great auditor. He's definitely one of them. Thank you all for tuning in. Subscribe and hit the bell because we bring you the best and most important videos on the internet. Remember to always record police and make sure to keep your cameras handy.